After arriving in Salt Lake City the night before on the California Zephyr, today we are exploring the city. As has been mentioned before by myself and other creators, Salt Lake City has a surprisingly good transit system. The backbone is the TRAX light rail system, but there's also a separate streetcar, the S line. Why are they two separate systems? Is there really any difference? Find out. Good morning everyone, welcome to a new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I'm with Lindsay in our hostel room in Salt Lake City this morning. This is our first time in Salt Lake City, Utah. We came in on the California Zephyr last night. We're heading out on the California Zephyr tonight, but in between we have the whole day to explore the place, and of course we're going to take TRAX light rail to do that. Our hostel, the SLC Hostel, was nice, very affordable, and it had everything we needed. Especially having a private room and a private bathroom was amazing. So we had a bathroom that was very clean. They also have an excessive amount of command hooks everywhere. And yeah, a small but cozy and clean bedroom that had enough storage space. So this place was great. Now it's time to go outside. Look, over there, a TRAX light rail train. But before we get on the train, we need breakfast. Now let's talk about the city we're exploring today. Salt Lake City, located in the Wasatch Front region of Utah, has a population of around 200,000. This makes it the largest city in Utah, but it's also the state capital. The Capitol building stands on a hill just to the north of downtown. But perhaps Salt Lake City is best known for being the headquarters of a certain religious group. Yeah, every building in this shot is related to the Church of Latter-day Saints. It's like you're in Rome, but for Mormons. It's no surprise, as the current city was founded by Brigham Young as he led a group of Mormons west, escaping from persecution. Once the site was selected, they quickly began work on an irrigation system and the temple. Though in later years other groups of settlers arrived for things like the gold rush and the railroads, the Mormon character of the city is hard to miss. More than half of the residents of the entire state belong to the Church of Latter-day Saints. Alright, let's talk about trains. We're at Courthouse Station on the red, blue, and green lines. TRAX is the light rail network here in Salt Lake City. TRAX technically stands for Transit Express, and the first section opened in 1999. The network has been expanding since, with the latest extension opening in 2013 and the newest infill station opening in 2022. The entire network is 44 miles long, all standard gauge track. Service is made up of 3 lines, green, red, and blue. You can see that this is another one of those American light rail systems that depends on the Siemens S70 model. There are 77 sets in total, which entered service between 2010 and 2012. There are older trains as well, the Siemens SD100 and SD160 on the blue line, but for some reason we never saw any that day. This clip was taken by my parents last year when they were visiting. Now, from Courthouse to either Library or Salt Lake Central Station, there is the so-called free fare zone. When traveling within this area, you don't need a ticket. However, since we were planning to leave the free zone later today, we just went ahead and bought day passes.
This is a Blue Line train to Salt Lake Central. Next station, City Center, first south. See something? Say something.
We've made it to the city center. This is where all the monuments I showed you at the beginning of the video are. You can also visit the City Creek Center Mall here. Time to ride a train back to Courthouse, where we'll take the red line to a very special destination. Well, with a few stops along the way.
Next station, Delavan Plaza, third south. Library, second east. Library, second east.
Our first stop, the library. Pretty cool building, am I right? You also get a nice view of the courthouse here. The station by the library has sculptures of books, and we'll have plenty of time to look at them because we were on a red line train, and then the next one was 5 minutes behind ours, but then the one after that is 20 minutes behind. So they could work on the spacing a little bit. Another thing I've noticed about these stations, they're really nice. They've got everything, a little roofed area, ticket machines, artwork. They're kept up very well. They're incredibly long. And the train always stops like way in the front. So you might have to walk or run it a little bit to catch your train.
Ninth east.
Now this next destination is one I'm very excited about. The stop we're getting off at next is the University of Utah Stadium.
Please exit to the right.
This retractable ramp is great for accessibility. All right, the red line now goes through the campus. We're in front of the U of U Stadium. We're gonna watch a football game?
No.
Why are we here?
Go see East High. Go Wildcats.
The walk wasn't bad, but there are subtle reminders everywhere that despite decent transit, this is still very much a car city. Here we are. So what's so special about this high school? Well, some notable fictional alumni include Troy Bolton, Chad Danforth, Gabriela Montez. That was her name, right?
Yeah. And Sharpay Evans.
And who could forget Sharpay and Ryan Evans? That's right. Though the movie is set in Albuquerque, this East High School is the school that was used for the filming of all 3 High School Musical movies, which just so happened to be some of my favorites when I was a little kid.
And though high school in real life was nothing like these movies, this was still a special moment for me. Pilgrimage complete, we then actually took a bus back to the stadium station. I cannot get enough of these mountains. Everywhere you go, they're just in your face. The next station we're checking out is 9th East Station.
So this is kind of stupid about some stations though, is they're built in the middle of these giant stroads, so you have to cross the street to exit, then zoom in over on that side, and there is no place to exit.
So after a very long walk on the platform to get to the only crosswalk, you then have to wait a long time for the light to change so you can finally cross the very wide street. Not exactly convenient. Then we checked out Trolley Square, which is now a mall, but it used to be a trolley depot.
Another upscale outdoor mall, but this one's trolley themed.
Like most American cities, Salt Lake City once had an extensive streetcar network. TRAX is not the original system here. The mall does a decent job of preserving the old depot. There's a museum inside, as well as this cool diorama.
Do you have a quarter? Neither do I.
And then next door is Trolley Square Trader Joe's.
Alright, so we've done quite a bit of sightseeing. Time for some train talk. We've been riding TRAX light rail all day today, and people have said a lot of good things about TRAX, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed with the system. There's a few small things that I wish would be better, like some of the stations are kind of hard to access. There's a little bit of a step to get to the seats, which is kind of easy to trip on. And at least the stretches we've been on, there seems to be absolutely no signal priority. Like they'll just be stuck waiting at a light for over a minute. But the trains are relatively clean, the frequencies aren't that bad, and the real-time information at the stations is really good. So there's a lot of cities in the US that have light rail only transportation that could learn a thing or two from Salt Lake City.
For the next part of this video, we are taking the red line down to Central Point Station. Part of this route is shared with freight trains. From Ballpark South, this line was built over an old Union Pacific right-of-way. Freight trains from the Salt Lake City Southern Railroad continue to run over these tracks, but I assume they only do this at night.
Next station, 6 South.
On the onboard map, we see the 3 TRAX lines, red, blue, and green. But at Central Point, we also see a little gray transfer icon.
Central Point, 21st South. Exit here for system bus routes, Green Line trains, and the S Line streetcar.
At Central Point, the main platform is for TRAX, while a little side platform is for the S-Line streetcar. That's right, Salt Lake City is one of those cities with both light rail and a streetcar. That in itself is not inherently unusual. There are other cities that have this, like Portland, Seattle, or Dallas. But now I'm sure you're curious what kind of vehicles run on the S-Line. Since the S-Line is not included on maps and branded separately, they must be very different, right? We'll have to wait a few minutes to find out, so let's look at some TRAX trains passing by. Here's a Green Line train joining the red and blue lines coming from West Valley Central Station. You know, as a Dutch person, I kinda like how many stations in the Salt Lake City area are called Central Station. After about 5 minutes, here comes the S-Line. Okay, if this looks like it's just another Siemens S70 but with a different livery, that's because it is. In fact, let's go inside.
Wow, look at this interior.
Exactly the same.
I was gonna say, it looks kind of familiar.
Next stop, South Salt Lake City, Main Street.
So the S-Line is very short. It's only about 2 miles or 3 kilometers long, with 7 stops. It serves Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake City, and the Sugar House neighborhood, hence the letter S. It was built on an old freight right-of-way, which last saw service in 2005. The S-Line opened in 2013. The stops are generally smaller than TRAX stations, and yes, UTA wants you to say stops and not stations, because this is a streetcar and not a light rail, I guess. To me, the difference seems almost indistinguishable in the trains. In fact, the craziest part is that these streetcars have a map of the TRAX network in them, but no maps of the S-Line itself. So clearly the vehicles are basically just TRAX vehicles with a different paint job. What makes the S-Line different lies more in the tracks than the trains.
Next stop, 300 East.
Much of the line is single-tracked, the platform only accommodates streetcars, and rather than running down the middle of busy roads, the S-Line and the adjacent trail form a very pleasant linear park through quieter neighborhoods. Along the line are houses, apartments, stores, and green space. It seems like it's a feeder line, one built for lower capacity and more integrated into the neighborhood. The character of the line is different, even if the trains are twinning with TRAX. I'm writing a video essay about streetcars in America to release sometime next year, and I'm going to come back to the S-Line a lot. I think it gets a lot of things right that other American streetcars get wrong, even if it is very short.
I love the S-Line. It doesn't run through the middle of the street. It runs through this like linear park that I think used to be an old railroad right-of-way. So there's people walking their dogs, riding scooters, there's playgrounds, places to sit outside and eat lunch. It's absolutely beautiful. Plus, I have never been on city transit with better mountain views than the S-Line. Every American city needs this because it's a streetcar and it serves a bunch of residential areas, a bunch of shops and businesses, but there's also this beautiful recreational park. You get off the streetcar and you're not worried about crossing 3 lanes of heavy traffic. It's serene and it's calming, it's useful, and I think it's exactly in these kind of spaces that we should be running our public transit. Honestly, my only improvement would be running more than once every 15 minutes. All right, Lindsay, the viewers want your wise insights. How has Salt Lake City been treating you? How have you liked it here?
I like it a lot. I definitely like all the bikes and seeing all the people who are outside, but definitely wish that like everything's are a little bit more accessible. It feels like downtown is a little bit where there's not a lot going on, and then once you get out, like we're in Fairmount area right now and it's been really nice. But
all right, and what are your thoughts on TRAX and the S-Line?
I think they're awesome. We need them in Chicago.
I can definitely think of some corridors in Chicago that could benefit from light rail.
Which do you like better, TRAX or S-Line?
I definitely like the views of the S-Line better, and it's definitely more up my alley in terms of like views and the people that are out and seeing lots of families and stuff and dogs. But I like TRAX. I think both are really nice, but definitely if you're looking for something scenic, I'd go for the S-Line.
$700 East.
S-Line vehicles being identical to the TRAX vehicles, it would make a lot of sense to extend it into downtown and maybe to like Salt Lake Central Station. I mean, the platforms on the S-Line are too short for two trains to be coupled to each other, but all in all, I always say I'm not against transfers if it's a good transfer, and here at Central Point it is a good transfer, so I just hope that Salt Lake City introduces multiple S-Line style corridors throughout the city.
Next station, Temple Square, 150 West South Temple.
We're on our way back to the city center. It's been a great day, and both TRAX and the S-Line are good public transportation projects that I hope will see expansion in the future. We're headed to Salt Lake Central Station, which is kind of a drab place. Nothing like this beautiful old Union Pacific building, which today is just kind of a building in the larger Gateway mixed-use complex behind it. There is a movement in Salt Lake City to move passenger train service underground and reopen the currently unused Rio Grande station as Salt Lake City's passenger terminal. It's called the Rio Grande Plan. It's an interesting plan in my opinion, and I will be making an in-depth video about it in the future. For now, open air Salt Lake Central is our final destination. Salt Lake Central is served exclusively by the Blue Line, and it lies within the free fare zone.
Another advantage of TRAX is that it connects to a lot of convenient locations. You can get to the airport, you can get to Central Station like here, where you can transfer to the front runner. Although you can't transfer to Amtrak here because the last track stops running long before Amtrak comes through here. Well, that's a wrap on Salt Lake City. We had such a great 24 hours here. The number one surprising thing about Salt Lake City was just how nice everybody was. Whether it was the Mormon girls showing you around, or police officers, people at restaurants, and of course riding TRAX on the S-Line was fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last train to Provo Station will depart North Temple Station at 11:03.
We went to Trader Joe's and they gave us this bag for free, which was nice. Now we're back at Salt Lake Central to get on the California Zephyr all the way to Emeryville.
Curious how our journey farther west goes? Part 3 of the California Zephyr drops soon. Subscribe to Trains Are Awesome so you don't miss it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.